recently, for those people who've been paying attention to my social media, they would have known that in November and December, you had an incredibly scary medical situation that put you into the hospital, ended up being in intensive care. You ended up being on a ventilator and in an induced coma for 12 days. And in total, I think you were there about 60 days, and you're at home recovering now. So first of all, welcome, and thank you for fighting through that so that you can even be here for that. And to all the listeners and viewers, we got a ton of love from family and friends and from Laughing Vikings clients and supporters throughout that. Absolutely. So I think you're a bit of a local legend and hero here around Laughing Vikings, and I almost get asked on a daily basis, people following up on you. So thank you for all that.
Well, I owe a great thanks to our medical community here in Aurelia. I got fabulous care, and I think I'm very lucky to still be here, given what I went through. And but I'm very glad to be here.
Right. So yeah, I mean, there's no doubt without the medicine, like to paint the picture, not to get into it too much, but you had a fairly serious surgery that was supposed to be smooth, like fairly serious, but kind of routine these days. You were supposed to be in and out in a week, and then you had some infections take place and sort of some sepsis, and then sort of organ by organ things started to shut down, and so they had to go into intensive care mode. When I arrived in intensive care, it was kind of interesting because all of this, of course, is happening under the backdrop of a global pandemic with COVID. So the hospitals are already running under weird protocol. We weren't allowed to see you when you were in the regular ward, but then as soon as you were in intensive care, they did allow very, very limited visitors. So the first day I got up there, and I had never seen you like this. Most of your life, you've been very active and very healthy and fit and robust. But when I walked in, you were in intensive care, unconscious in an induced coma, on a ventilator. You were on a dialysis machine, which is all your blood running because your kidneys had shut down. So they're taking all your blood out of your body, running it through a machine to filter it. And then you were also on a 9-bag or a 9-bag IV tree with like every concoction of painkillers and antibiotics and all kinds of things. So like when I walked in, you were literally like, this is a hospital and a team of experts keeping you alive with machines, and by tweaking all your levels and stuff, it was mind blowing to see that. But
I'm kind of glad I don't have any memories of that whole month of November.
Right.
That's the time we're talking about. And
right.
By the time I started to recognize the world around me, it was December, and most of that was behind me.
Yeah. It was tough seeing you come out of that too, because obviously that after that long with so many tubes and hooked up, like must have just been the most uncomfortable thing, but you can't quite speak yet. So you can't really like express the things that you need help with either. So it was very frustrating for a little while, but the nurses in the hospital, like seeing them react every time something would change, like if you would take a turn for the worse, they would immediately identify what it was, immediately enact some kind of solution, and then you'd be back to where you needed to be. So it was pretty fascinating to see them work how they did. It was mind blowing. But you did, and I don't know how much you remember this, but towards the end, something that's very common, and I didn't know this before, but when people go into heavy sedation or coma-like or to be intubated with ventilators, coming out of that, you're in such a foggy, sort of delusional, weird state. Also, it's the painkillers. You started to have some, like, I would imagine it's like sort of like lucid dreams, or sort of like being in a horror movie where you're just like, especially for you, because you weren't going in there for 60 days. You were thinking you were going in there for a week, and all of a sudden it's gone all haywire. Can you share, what do you remember about that narrative? Because what you told us, and in particular, one day you leaned over to me and you looked me dead in the eyes, and you're like, when we get out of here, I got a lot to tell you about, like, and I'm like, what is this? Like, so.
Well, I also told Lois that one day, Lois, get out of here, because there were terrorists after me, and I traveled to England, back to Aurelia on a Canadian Air Force plane, ended up in a kind of semi-prison somewhere where the guards were people you didn't want to tick off because they held a grudge for a long, long time, and they had ways to hurt you. And probably some of that hurting was coming from what I was happening to me, but it was a whole other story. And I have promised your brother, Chris, that I will try and write down some of that story. I haven't done it yet, but I still, it's vivid as can be. It's hard to believe how vivid it still is in my mind. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it makes perfect sense too when you think about what you're going through, like these terrorists, and you're captured. There were some times where, when you were on the ventilator, you were actually your arms were restrained, because the tendency is to grab tubes out of you and to want to get that discomfort away from you. Yeah. So it was, or it was like, if you've seen V for Vendetta, when Natalie Portman gets tossed in the jail and she's being like tortured and abused, it must have felt like that. Was awful. Yeah. But so you got out of that to it was weird. We spent Christmas with you via Zoom. You were still in intensive care, so we couldn't visit you. We actually did a live stream comedy show at Laughing Vikings, where you dialed in via Zoom and gave us an amazingly heartfelt, for a lot of people was the highlight, or at least the heart of our Christmas special, dialing in and giving us a message of good cheer. And
hello. All of us are finding with COVID, of course, that Christmas is very different this year. I didn't expect to be in a hospital, and really either. But I think what it's really shown us all is the importance of people around us. All of a sudden getting a particular sports piece of equipment, or some kind of technological thing for your iPad or whatever, isn't as important as connecting with friends, family, people that you just met that you really like. And I think that's a really important lesson for us all in 2020 Christmas. So that's my wish for all of you, that you find peace, happiness, contentment, joy, and that I stop coughing, and that this spirit of enjoying the people around us carries on into 2021 as well. Take care, everyone. Enjoy the evening.
Yes, thank you for being here.
Fred.
That was amazing.